Welcome to the Athens Politics Nerd podcast. Today, I've got an interview with Eric Gisler. He's running to become the next state representative for District 121. Marcus Wiedauer, the former representative, stepped down suddenly to pursue a business opportunity, so there's a special election coming up on December 9th. Early voting has already started. District 121 includes Watkinsville and also parts of southeast Athens, including South Millage, University Drive, Riverbend, Whitehall Road, College Station, Barnett Shoals, and Whit Davis Road. Gisler is running against Mack Guest IV, who goes by Dutch. Dutch is a Republican who works for LAD Truck Lines, a family business founded by his father, Mack Guest III. Dutch is the former president of the Oconee County Rotary Club, and he's endorsed by Governor Brian Kemp. Dutch did not respond to multiple interview requests, so I'm interviewing Democrat Eric Gisler here only. Let's get right into it. Thanks for being here, Eric.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So some people listening may not know who you are. Tell us about yourself. What do you do when you're not running for office, and what motivates you to run for this seat in particular?
So I'm a native Georgian. I was born in the Atlanta area. Ended up going to school a couple of years at Georgia Southern, and then transferred up here to finish up at UGA. Got a degree in oceanography. It was actually interdisciplinary studies because they didn't have an oceanography program at the time. Double majored in biology and went directly into IT, technology. So did not use my degree really at all. At my day job, I've been working in financial services technology for my whole career really. 19 years at one company through various acquisitions and things, doing online banking until I was laid off from that, and then I ended up getting into the startup world. I'm on my third startup now since then. I was laid off in 2020, right before COVID hit, so that was fun. But at that time, I also bought the Olive Basket, the olive oil and vinegar store. It's out in Oconee County right now in Epsbridge Shopping Center, but going to actually be moving downtown here pretty soon.
Oh, so, downtown Athens?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Haven't signed a lease yet, but I'm that close.
That's great.
Yeah.
If you're elected and there's one policy you get to push through, just one, what would that be?
Oh boy, just one. Yeah. Oh, I'll get very specific actually. Ranked choice voting. I think that's the number one thing, because everything that happens comes from election results and voting. Ranked choice, I think, would give people a lot more choices, and I think that would be a game changer. So ranked choice voting is where when you go to vote, you don't just choose Republican or Democrat, right? You pick from a list of candidates and you rank them 1 to 5 or however many are in there. It eliminates runoffs, which is one of the things we have in this state. I think us and Maine are the only states that do that, and that's actually a holdover from Jim Crow era.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Because if a black guy and a white guy got into a runoff, the state could consolidate behind the white guy. So,
wow.
Yeah, there's a whole history there. But yeah, I mean, you get rid of that, but it also allows more choices, right? I mean, we could get into political science and game theory and all that kind of stuff, but in our current system, it really just favors two parties. And if you have ranked choice, it allows other parties to have a chance. You can vote for someone from another party without feeling like you're throwing your vote away.
Mm-hmm. And runoffs are expensive. It's a total waste of money.
Absolutely.
So now name one thing that Republicans like Marcus Wiedauer have done that you disagreed with or wish they had done differently.
Just one. Again.
You can name two, that's fine.
I mean, there's plenty to go on, right? I mean, the first one that comes to mind is the abortion ban. I think that was absolutely wrong. They have not raised the minimum wage. That's one. They did tort reform last year, which is going to make it more difficult for people who are legitimately injured to be compensated correctly. The Senate Bill 202, where they overhauled elections a few years ago, is a disaster. I mean, it has not been as bad as it could be, but there are several things in that bill that made voting worse in the state. What else? Oh, there's a lot of them. You only asked for one. I gave you like 3. So.
Food benefits like SNAP are a big issue right now with the ongoing federal shutdown.
Yes.
It seems like people may not receive SNAP or food stamps this month at all. Mm-hmm. And we don't know how long that's going to last. So in office, how would you act to make sure that people don't go hungry in our state?
That's a good question. First off, to talk about what's going on right now, the whole thing is silly. The federal government, the Republicans, MAGA Republicans in the federal government have decided to withhold emergency SNAP funding that's already been appropriated. So there's really no reason for this to even come to the state level. But we know how dysfunctional Washington is. And then we saw last week, Governor Kemp said, we're not going to dip into our savings either. We've got $14 billion in surplus just sitting there. So why would you not do that? I believe, I don't know the current numbers, I think that's $14 billion above and beyond the rainy day fund, which is about $5 billion. So if 1.4 million citizens in your state is not being able to access food is not a rainy day, I don't know what qualifies. As a state representative, I think the only thing you can do is apply pressure to the governor to dip into that rainy day fund and deal with this emergency. And just to be clear, a surplus at the state level means that's tax money that has been collected and services that have not been delivered. So that's our money sitting there.
Yeah. What are some other things that you'd like to spend that surplus on?
It's a good question. The thing about a surplus is it's like a savings account, right? You can't guarantee you're going to have a surplus every year. So you'd have to do targeted investments to try to improve things. I think there's a lot that could be done for schools as far as infrastructure. We know that our prison system, we have a lot of older facilities, a lot of things that need to be refurbished there. There's plenty of places for that money to go, but you have to be careful with it. Because once it's gone, it's a surplus, right?
That's true. Well, so as you know, in 2025, Americans are more divided than ever across party lines. Democrats and Republicans don't agree, and sometimes even within the parties, people are very upset with each other. Worse, many are starting to see those on the other side as evil, not just like people we disagree with, but like having bad motivations. And if they're doing things like cutting off food for the hungry, is that an apt description, do you think? And either way, how do we heal this divide and restore the health of our democracy?
Boy, it's $1 million question, right? I think everybody wishes they knew the answer to that one. The way I kind of see it is you've got two tents, right? You got the Republican tent, you got the Democratic tent. And right now, the price of admission of the Republican tent is Donald Trump is infallible. Everything he says is the truth. Everything is correct. You can't question it, right? If you want to be a Republican, that's where you got to be. And what does that mean? That means anyone that doesn't follow that has one other tent to go for, because there's only two. And like we said, first past the post, winner take all districts. That's the way our system is set up. You can dream about a third party all you want, but with the way the system currently works, third parties just aren't viable. So you only have those two tents, which means that the people who were in that Republican tent before that became the rule, I think they're not feeling very comfortable in that tent anymore, right? I have longtime friends who still consider themselves traditional conservative Republicans, cannot stand what's happening to their party. But they still don't realize that is the party now. And I think there's a difference there, right? There's Republican voters who still identify as Republican and vote Republican because they always have, and don't agree with some of the extremism that's going on there. But that's all they know. That's what they're used to. That's how they identify as Republicans. And some of my friends are still like that. But if you're not going to fit in that MAGA Republican Party, and you've only got one other tent to go into, it's a big tent. There's a lot of voices, and there's a lot of different voices there, which makes us makes the Democratic Party look like we're discombobulated, right? We can't agree on anything, right? We're not strong on anything. We're weak on things because we tend to talk about things. So yeah, it's messy right now, that's for sure. I personally, it's getting to the point where I can't even identify values that I agree with MAGA Republicans. Traditional conservatives, yeah. At the end of the day, I think we have a lot of the same values. We all want people to be healthy. We all want people to have good educations. We all want people to be fed. We want people to access health care. We may have different ideas on how to do that, but what I'm seeing right now at the federal, at the state level, not so much at the local level, but at the federal and the state level is an extremist party that, I mean, most days doesn't even seem to care about the Constitution. But you mentioned the current shutdown. It's a perfect case in point. You've got the MAGA federal Republican Party purposely starving 40 million Americans because they want to take away health care from 20 million Americans. And I'll say this to anybody watching, if you're conservative and you disagree with that, I'd love to talk to you. Let's get on camera and talk about that, because I don't see how anybody can see it any other way.
How will you win over those non-MAGA Republicans who do care about what's happening right now?
I think all we have to do is give them a reason. Give them a reason to vote. I think that a lot of people who pulled, the ballot for Donald Trump last year, they didn't sign up for this, right? They voted for lower prices. They voted for lower taxes. They voted for traditional, Republican values, smaller government, all those kind of things. They're not getting that. I mean, I just read that we passed the national debt passed $37 trillion in August, passed $38 trillion last week. That's $1 trillion in 2 months, right? They're not getting a small government. I don't think they voted for militarized cities. I don't think they voted for extrajudicial killings off the coast, or not even off the coast, 2,000 miles from the coast in Venezuela, right? So I think the MAGA wing of the Republican Party are overplaying their hands. And I think the only way we get past it is for them to start losing elections.
Okay. Is there anything else on your platform that you'd like to highlight? Like, what do you really want to accomplish in office?
Yeah, this is a state government position, right? And if you pay attention to what's been happening at the state level for the last several years, there's a lot of things that have not gone well, right? We mentioned the abortion ban. I think most voters agree that that's not the right way to do it. We never expanded Medicaid. I think that's still possible. It gets a little weird because of this new bill that came out. I think it's still possible to do it. It's harder to do, and you don't expand quite as much, but it's still possible. And without it, we've seen rural hospitals closing all around the state. We're looking at 750,000 Georgians are about to be priced out of insurance in January. That's a crisis. That's on top of I think it's 1.2 million Georgians who don't have any insurance at all right now. You put those two together, that's 2 million out of 11 million Georgia citizens that have no access to health care. The SNAP stuff was 1.4 million Georgians. Would it be 1.4 million Georgians that were dependent on SNAP for nutritional assistance if the minimum wage had been raised a few years ago? Probably not, right? People would probably be able to make ends meet a little bit better. And we talked about how many Georgians are about to go without insurance. Those of us who have insurance through an employer, it's not that great either. I don't know about you, but I'm paying a pretty hefty premium every month and a $5,000 deductible. So, I mean, I'm paying thousands of dollars every year just to have insurance, and then thousands of dollars on top of that if I use it, right? It's crazy. You look at car insurance. Georgia has one of the highest car insurance rates, premiums, in the Southeast, higher than all of our neighbors. Housing. I mean, I've almost lost the question that you asked me at this point.
Just to highlight things on your platform that you are really passionate about.
Housing. I know that's a big issue here in Athens. It doesn't seem like it's as big as one in Oconee, but the truth is housing prices going up and the supply not keeping up. Supply and demand, economics 101, right? If you don't have enough houses for the people, then the prices of those houses are going to go up, right? We're seeing that in Athens. We need more supply at the end of the day. At the state level, we can pass incentives for local governments to change their zoning or maybe incentivize them to approve, more dense plans, housing plans. People don't think that's impacting Oconee County, but if you think about it, why do most people move to Oconee County? You probably know, right? It's the school system. It's one of the best school systems in the state, if not the country. People like to move there, and who moves for school systems? It's young families. Well, if things keep going the way they are in Oconee County, young families aren't going to be able to afford to live there. And I think a lot of people out there don't even see it coming, but it's there. It's on the horizon.
So I'm hearing a focus on affordability, I heard that you said you wanted to raise the minimum wage and that you didn't agree with the 6-week abortion ban. So would you just repeal that legislation, or what would be your preferred?
Yeah. This is one of those like culture war topics, right? And this one is super important, right? I mean, women have died in this state because of this law. But on a lot of these culture war things, it's just not a place the state government needs to be in. You talk about wanting a small government. Why is the state legislature in there between a patient and her doctor? That's a medical decision that needs to be made by the patient and the doctor, the family, everyone else, but not the state legislature.
So this election is coming up soon on December 9th?
Yes.
And do we know who your opponent is yet?
I know Steven Strickland has announced that he's going to be in the race. That's the only one I've heard of so far. I've heard rumors of others, but not anything credible.
Okay. And so why should voters choose you over, a generic Republican or Steven Strickland or whoever is on the ballot?
Because of the things we were just talking about, right? It's about affordability. I want to try to do something to bring people's insurance rates down, increase healthcare coverage. People are voting, this is probably going to come out after, people are voting tomorrow on the Public Service Commission. I don't know if you've paid attention to that, but there's widespread what I would call corruption in the Public Service Commission. It's legal, but that doesn't make it ethical, right? The lawyers representing Georgia Power and Georgia Power executives are all donating money to the Public Service Commission. And that's led to all of our bills skyrocketing over the last few years. That kind of thing, I think, needs to be looked at, needs to be changed. Part of the reason I want to get in there is common sense and math, honestly. Right? They're talking about cutting the income tax. I don't like paying taxes any more than anybody else, but the state income tax is half of the state's tax revenue. It's $20 billion. I haven't heard how they plan to make that up. And there's only two ways. It's either raise your sales taxes or charge more for state fees, if you're paying way more for a driver's license or whatever else, or you just cut services. The state constitution in Georgia requires a balanced budget. So if you take your revenues to here, you got to bring your expenses down. And when I look at it, the money that state income taxes fund goes majority to public education. And I think there's a lot of people over there on the right who would like to see public education go away completely and rely on, homeschools, no education, whatever. They don't have a plan for that. But other things it pays for are, public safety. It pays for the Georgia State Highway Patrol. It pays for the prison system. There are all these other things. And so the math ain't mathin' at the end of the day. And so that's why I want to be there, is to have another voice of reason in the Georgia State Legislature to look at these things. And if I'm missing the data and somebody can show me how it works, great. But if if it just doesn't work, then we shouldn't be passing things like that.
Very cool. Well, thanks so much for coming on my show.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for having me. Happy to do it again.
Great. You can early vote Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 at the ACC Elections Office downtown, that's 155 East Washington Street, or at the Tennis Center at 4460 Lexington Road. Early voting runs until December 5th. You can also early vote this weekend, November 22nd or 23rd, but they're closed for Thanksgiving. Happy voting, everybody, and happy Thanksgiving.